What is going on, everybody? It is episode 257 of Pop Culture Crisis. I was told not to screw up this intro, so that's what I'm doing. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, crisis actors. Welcome to Popular Culture Crisis.
I messed it up. I did mess it up, but I messed it up internally. I was supposed to say, welcome to Popular
There's a lot of
Culture
pressure
Crisis.
today.
How are you doing, Mary?
I'm good. I'm calm.
Yes, that's what I'm
collected.
Going for. I'm going for calm here today, guys. I am going to be less manic, I promise. We have a guest host today. Would you introduce yourself, sir?
Hi, I'm Wesley. I'm back.
See, you can be manic if you want.
Why is this turning into ASMR?
I know.
Oh, no, none of that. NPR ASMR. Oh, my gosh. That might be the worst idea in the history of the world is NPR ASMR. So, guys, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We are going to talk about how nothing matters. The Flash is having fantastic screenings, and they're moving up the release date because it looks to be so great.
Someone in the chat said it's very fitting for a movie like The Flash to show up sooner than expected.
To be fair, they're like 8 years behind when it was supposed to come out, so they're going to be late either way. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Jennifer Lawrence saying my favorite quote in all of 2022, and this year's almost over, so that's impressive. We're going to talk about the media. They have their opinions on Avatar, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Jenna Ortega is under fire for putting everyone's health at risk just to do her job at work. How dare she with her COVID diagnosis. We are also going to talk about Mindy Kaling and her discussion about how she believes, and she's probably right, that you wouldn't be able to make The Office today because every single character would be canceled. Do you agree? Yes, no?
I agree, but we're going to address the counter arguments.
We will. All right, guys. So if you are ready, Mary, we will get right into it. Are we ready?
Of course.
Wesley, are we ready?
Ready?
Okay. All right. now that we're done with the fun part of the intro. So it says Ezra Miller's The Flash is being called as good as Spider-Man No Way Home. Wow, I want to see some sources on that one, guys. That is a bold statement to make, considering it was beloved by fans and critics altogether.
I thought you meant it was bold to say that Spider-Man No Way Home was good.
No, well, I'm just saying it was loved.
Would you say that?
That it's good?
Yeah.
That's right. No.
About No Way Home? No.
Good, maybe not good, but fun.
Yes.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
fair. I
It's
mean,
a
I
poorly
liked it.
made movie, but it had a lot of moments that I was like, ah.
Okay, I need to ask what was poorly made about it.
Well, I don't want to get into a diatribe here because I will, but
No diatribe. We love diatribes.
I love
here.
diatribes. I just think it had nothing going on other than the frills, like very little.
Well, I mean, most of those movies should be thrills if they're not going to try to do more.
Frills, sorry.
Oh, frills.
Frills, yes, like the
all filler, no
the
killer.
nostalgia. Yeah, the nostalgia aspects. But there was like I would need to think a little bit more to have the points. But yes, I didn't think it was a very well made movie. As
That's fair.
Many,
I loved it. I mean,
it made a lot of money, though.
It did,
And
yeah.
I think that The Flash could be poised to blow Black Adam out of the water.
it just proves that nothing matters anymore. So it says the upcoming frequently delayed Ezra Miller movie, and it is frequently delayed, ladies and gentlemen. The Flash is at the same level of quality as the 2021 film Spider-Man No Way Home. As Wesley would say, maybe that's under contestment, so you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
According to those who have seen the unreleased film. Now, my main problem with this is one thing Warner Brothers does more than anything else. They love the like hype package. Like I still remember like when Batman vs Superman was being promoted, they're like, it got a standing ovation from the executives on the Warner Brothers lot. When clearly that wasn't true because they cut like half the movie out. And so the first thing I think is this is a hype package, and they might even do this like whether it's a good movie or a bad movie. They might have no problem just being like, it's a train wreck, and maybe then people are like, should I go see the train wreck? But any publicity is good publicity.
We do need to take test screenings with a grain of salt and like the sentiments that come out of it. First of all, to account for the bias of people who feel special from getting early access. But secondly, because of examples like I found today, I saw that Eric Davis actually reported that Batgirl test screenings got the exact same relatively low score from early viewers as Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the Gods both got during their test screenings, yet the latter two were approved for theatrical release, and the first one was scrapped entirely. So it doesn't seem like all that meaningful of a metric anymore.
No, it doesn't. This is some of the Twitter responses. It says The Flash being compared to Spider-Man No Way Home, which was one of the biggest movies of all time, is not bad company. That would be a big turning point for the DCU. It wouldn't be the new era because this movie was made. They say the new era begins, but this wouldn't be the new era. This was produced under the Walter Hamada regime long before James Gunn took over. But the other thing that I thought was funny is yesterday we went on a long talk about Balenciaga, and there's no protests and nobody cares.
I can't wait to hear your take now.
We are in a bubble here, right? We know what is going on. The average person doesn't care, doesn't know. Like I said yesterday, they're taking their kids to soccer practice. They're taking their daughter to her ballet recitals. The average person doesn't know that Ezra Miller showed up at some lady's house wearing a cowboy outfit trying to be a predator to their child. They don't know. They don't care.
And there's so much more that even I have memory hold after we've both been covering Ezra Miller's antics for months and months now.
Maybe that's the point, is like literally to just so much of it is insane that
saturate
you forget all of
the
it.
headlines as much as possible. I don't know. I've seen some people questioning it on Twitter, at least. One person tweeted, why can't they just cancel this movie because of Ezra Miller? He's so problematic, and honestly, I think Warner Brothers has no idea what they're doing. As far as putting someone this unstable on an official press tour for the movie, that's better. True. They have no idea what they're doing, putting this person on camera.
He's going on the press tour?
Well, doesn't he have to?
No,
He's the star.
No, they've said that they can work around
it. It would be, of course, bizarre for him not to do press for this movie.
I mean, it's funnier if he does it and they make
it draws more
documentary.
attention to the fact that he's a problem child if he weren't on any press appearances for this movie, right?
Or how about this? What they do is they play a gag where they're like, he was just here, you didn't see him? He must already be on his way to the next chess screening, and they just do the bolt thing where like a puff of
and what are the co-stars supposed to do if and when they are asked about working with Ezra Miller and his history, which is now made mostly public? It's not really fair to expect them to answer for his scandals either.
So the movie's coming out Father's Day weekend. They bumped it up to June 16th of 2023. And I wanted to look at some of the...
Oh boy, can't wait. One week.
I wanted to look at to do this. So these are the other things that are coming out at that time. So it comes out the 16th. This hasn't been updated yet. It still says that it's coming out the 23rd. But we've got the week before that is Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I'm actually fairly excited to watch Popcorn Flick. I know a lot of people kind of are annoyed by it. We've got Spider-Man Across the Universe the week before that. And then we've got The Little Mermaid the week before that. That's May. And Fast and the Furious 10. Hopefully Hannah Claire is done by then.
We are going to have a ball.
Comes out on May 9th. Yeah, this is a good month for
2023
blockbusters.
is going to be better than 2022.
Yeah. And then, so what you have there is then you have the week after that is an untitled Lionsgate movie coming out on the 23rd. That was when The Flash would have come out before. Then Indiana Jones comes out June 30th. So they're giving themselves at least a little bit of a window. Maybe they see Transformers Rise of the Beast as easier to take on than as Indiana Jones 5 or whatever. They have a lot. I
think definitely based on the reception that we saw for the Transformers movie and like the comments saying they don't want to see Ron Perlman in it.
Yeah. So not just that, I was looking like we've got a good next year has got a lot of fun stuff that we're going to see. So listen to some of these. So Guardians of the Galaxy is in May. I'm just going to start in May because that's kind of the unofficial begin of the summer season. Some would say June. So you've got Guardians of the Galaxy on May 5th. You've got Fast and the Furious 10 on May 19th, The Little Mermaid on May 26th, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is actually a highly loved. That first Spider-Verse movie is almost universally loved. Then you've got Transformers, then you've got The Flash, Indiana Jones, and then right after that, a couple of weeks, you've got Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning in mid-June, and then Oppenheimer and Barbie in the same weekend on the 21st. So we'll probably have to see both of those. We would probably see Barbie on Thursday and Oppenheimer on Friday, or the other way around. Maybe it makes more sense to see Oppenheimer on
We'll
Thursday.
cross that bridge when we get
come to
it.
it.
Okay.
So both
the
of those,
girlies are gonna win.
Yeah, and then I don't have a say in it, folks. Then you've got the Marvels. I mean, not that that's something to be excited about, but that does come out on July 28th, and then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is coming out on August 4th. I didn't even know that was being made because unless they're making The Last Ronin, I don't want to hear about it because that's the movie that they should be making. The Meg 2. Did you see the Meg?
Oh my gosh, I did. I slept through a whole hour of it.
Everyone loves that movie because it's so stupid.
No, I hated it. Yeah. I slept through like half of it.
I remember.
It was so boring.
I did see it. I remember thinking that it didn't lean far enough.
Yeah, like it needs to go all
not
the way.
ridiculous enough.
Yeah, not ridiculous enough.
So what would
not Jaws
like
enough?
they changed it halfway through the movie, and they're like, "Oh, let's be funny," and there was like a cross tone. I don't know.
What we're learning is that what these studios are doing is the smartest thing you can do is ride out the bad press because they understand how quickly our news cycles are and how basically kind of forgetful most people really are, and they are. So think about this. James Gunn, remember, he got in trouble for his questionable tweets. Disney fires him. He goes and works for DC, and then Disney just quietly hires him back a couple of months later. I think they've really learned that they have to do the kind of like people do their performative outrage. They have to do their performative guilt and performative apologies. And
accountability ends where profit begins.
Yes, it ends up just being all performance, and nobody at all ends up being in any way, shape, or form sincere or punished. And Ezra Miller will suffer no consequences from this. To be fair, we're going to end up going to see it.
I mean, yeah, still, I don't think that we're supporting Ezra Miller just by seeing The Flash and reviewing it. But
we can only hope that if people are watching, they choose to watch the show and hear us review it rather than go see it themselves, and maybe we...
He's just low profile enough of an actor that he can kind of get away with this.
See, I don't even know if that's true. I think nowadays, I just feel like people are not... They're not connected the same way we are, like not in the same context, right? Mm-hmm. And the outrage just dies instantly.
Well, he got liberal chicks on Twitter to thirst after him and make fan cams of him. Ew. I mean, remember when he choked the woman in Iceland? I literally saw people reposting that video saying, "I wish that were me."
Yeah,
it's psychotic the way people will defend male feminists these days.
Those are the same women, though. In another generation, they would have been the ones who went to visit serial killers in prison.
You think?
Probably. That would be my guess. And then Blue Beetle comes out on August 18th, and then you go, what? You're not. And then Equalizer 3 on September 1st. Let's go! I love Denzel Washington. I mean, he's gonna be what if he's in like a wheelchair? Like
he's not that old.
He's getting. Action hero old. Yeah. He's at the Liam Neeson age now. And then Expendable 4 in September. Expendables 4. That's a thing.
Never seen an Expendables.
Never? Any of them?
Never.
Oh, you have to see the Expendable movies.
I think we're finally crawling back from the COVID box office.
What is he, 60? 67.
What?
Denzel. I said, what is he, 60?
He's
67.
He's getting up to his 70s. So what would Ezra Miller have to do to just disappear? Is that even possible?
I don't think there's even going to be a press junket for this movie.
You think
nothing?
Cancel.
They'll just skip it?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how you can get away with that.
So then what do? Do you double down on the advertising and skip the press tour?
Yeah, I think so.
Because do you save money by not doing the press tour and then double down on like digital ads?
Yeah, or don't and let what happened may. Like, you have to release this movie. Like you're saying about Twitter people, like, why don't they just cancel it? It's like, that's a dumb idea. Like, that is an objectively terrible idea. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
That's from people who don't understand the stakes of the money that's been spent.
Or there's also a million other people not a million, but you know what I mean. Like multitudes of other people who worked on this that are not him.
Yeah,
you know, like. Who deserve
to
have
would
their
lose out just as much,
also,
or more. You know, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
He's already been paid. There's no going back on paying him for his work, whether it goes to screens or not.
I also hate I find the moralist approach to Hollywood a lot of times in that respect kind of it's not really plausible. Like, I can applaud it. I can applaud the idea that you boycott it, but it's not the real world. It's not what ends up happening. I don't want Ezra Miller to succeed, but it's like the sad fact is they can do a cost-benefit analysis, figure out who knows what, how many people are, like, how far does this information penetrate into the general public, and if they don't know. Like, think about, like, times when we go back to stories we've covered and names don't always come to you right away. He is just low profile enough that it just really doesn't matter.
I'm seeing another sentiment right now pushing back on the positive test screenings. And Brett, as the resident accused DC fanboy here, I would like your reaction to it. So a lot of people are saying The Flash is going to be better than the Snyderverse, and then other people are saying that the so-called Snyder bots are crying in their mother's basements right now. Another person said, imagine having nothing better to do than hate on a movie because it has nothing to do with Zack Snyder.
Well, I don't know if they're doing that. Or if
Snyder fanboys are first going to criticize everything, and then when it becomes a success, pretend like it's their father making movies.
Well, technically, they would be able to get at least some credit because the Ezra Miller's Flash was cast by Zack Snyder's universe, so he would at least have a tangential connection.
Stolen
to it.
valor.
Plus, they're going. Yeah. Plus, they're going to. There's all the talks about rebooting everything and using the Flashpoint storyline to reboot everything there. That there's no Superman in this movie. It'll be Sasha Calle's Supergirl. It's going to be very, very interesting to see just how deep this goes, because that's the problem with the connected universes, right? Like, you couldn't pay me to have to figure all this stuff out. There's a great TikTok of a guy who's like, hi, James Gunn, welcome to your first day at DC. And they give him this like laundry list of things he needs to accomplish. And it's like this long. And it's like, imagine having to be responsible for all that, and any one decision goes wrong. You're in a subculture that's full of people that are very, very opinionated and passionate about this stuff. I wouldn't want, like, you couldn't pay me enough to do that. When Kevin Feige got hired to do that, it was a far different media landscape than it is now.
Yeah. I also feel like James Gunn is the right guy to say, like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, that, hand me that and throw it out and say, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do.
But I still don't see him as, like...
He did it with the Suicide Squad, you know what I mean? Like,
I still don't see him as an executive. I see him as a creative, and I would rather you find... I don't know who it would be. Who is the person that ends up being really good at being both a creative and, you know, creating creative endeavors and being a businessman?
I think he's both. I think you need the person who's both, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And he hasn't had the opportunity yet. That's not even true. You know, like, as much as I didn't really love Brightburn, I thought that proved,
oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
That proved that he can find talent. He has unique ideas. You know what I mean? Because that was, like, co-written by him and the director. I can't remember the director's name.
See, I always thought
that,
like, it's funny because that would have been, like, somebody was talking about how that should have been put into the Unbreakable universe with, wouldn't that have been interesting if that had ended in there with Split and Glass?
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, like, that to me shows that he wants to do whatever DC is doing outside of the box, not copy Marvel, even though he came from Marvel. Like,
well, I mean, I would rather, like, I still wish they would just never have connected any of it and just done standalone. Just didn't standalone everything.
Yeah. Or if you have, like, I don't hate the idea. I know they hate it. The idea of there being, like, a connected universe and then these, like, Elseworld stories. I'm fine with all that.
Well, yeah.
I know that other people hate it. Eric Delay hates that. You know, it's like, but, like, sometimes you need to change things up to tell the most interesting story.
Well, what would he have preferred it to be? That they're all connected?
They're all connected.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I don't think the movie universe
and perfectly in canon with every comic book.
Yeah, well,
like,
that's a pipe dream in this day and age. He's like, he's right. That would be preferable, right? But it's not.
It
it's
just
not
wouldn't be
viable
interesting to me. You never get a Gotham by Gaslight or something like that.
Well, there is the Gotham by Gaslight animated movie.
I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If every comic and movie for a certain character is in canon, you never get a Gotham by Gaslight.
Yeah, and I love some of those. Those Gotham stories, like especially the
you don't
animated
get the Long
movies.
Halloween either.
Yeah,
you know?
So a lot of that's really, really good. So all right.
We got a criticism in the chat.
Okay, go for it.
They say, wasn't PCC saying the opposite of this a month ago regarding our opinions on Ezra Miller staying in The Flash or The Flash going to theatrical release?
What I'm saying is that I don't find it plausible to believe that that type of morality actually makes a difference. Would I prefer this movie didn't come out? I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't maybe.
I'd still prefer to see it for the spectacle. Honestly, I'm kind of evil.
I'll take the own on that one. Like, maybe that was my position back then, but like maybe it's just like time's passed and I'm a little bit more like
jaded.
No, maybe it's like there's so much going on.
We have other battles to fight.
Well, there's been so much going on that's been so depressing that it's easier to be outraged, and maybe that's a fault of my own when you're reading the articles when they're fresh. Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like this is very abhorrent. I can't believe he did this stuff. And most
even
of
now,
it,
I've blocked most of the details out.
well, let's think about what was it. It wasn't just the holding the woman by the throat and
He threw a
chokeslamming.
chair
Well, there's
at
also
somebody.
like
Throwing the
sleeping
chair.
in the same bed in the same hotel room as a girl who's 14.
Yeah, okay,
And giving
yeah,
her
like,
drugs
it would
and
be-
talking to a 12-year-old saying, "I'm going to give you a fashion career." Like weird stuff.
Without the ability
yes,
to,
but like, does Hollywood care about
No, they don't.
the safety of or well-being of children? No, they would rather probably tell you that you're a bigot who hates non-binary trans people if you don't watch this movie.
It is interesting that they're not using that as the shield here. That they're just
No, it's just
trying
such an
to-
obviously egregious example of someone using their identity as a shield that I think they're not willing to go there. But like, I'm sure some people are deranged enough to think so.
Chat might be right on this one. I could be like, maybe I'm just having a day.
Maybe
I
we're
don't think
dishonest
they are right.
hacks.
The only difference between The Flash and every other movie is that somebody in this movie did these things.
True,
Yeah.
true.
And like,
it's always
there-
somebody.
Yeah. I mean, like, there are movies like post facto, like people still watch K-Pax, or that's a horrible example, but like Seven, right? You still watch
Yeah.
Seven.
Maybe it's different. Maybe it is unfair to say like it's different to knowingly do it when it's a new movie as opposed to being okay with watching it when it's an old movie.
Yeah. But it's just that like my point is that like every movie is going to have people like this because this is what this industry is a bunch of pervs. But it also is not just him. Like there are a lot. This is a lot of people's first movie.
Yeah.
Like the first movie they ever worked on, and he may be the star. He's the face. He's whatever. Use it as an opportunity to change him. You probably covered it, but weren't they talking about replacing him with George Mackay anyway? Like
That's like
I don't remember that.
And part of it's like
do that.
It's not like I'm going to go into the movie and come out of the movie liking Ezra Miller.
No.
No. Like that's never going to happen. Not in a million years.
Some other people's brains might work that way, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're whether this movie comes out or not, they're going to be that way. You know?
Yeah.
Like this is still a product that like I think should see the light of day in spite of him. You know,
Yeah.
like
Why?
we're going to
Because-
release this
Like,
movie
we were
because other
just-
people worked on it. Like,
We were just about
this
to
is
cover
other people's
this
career on the line.
We were just about to cover this other story with Miss Marvel, was it? Where this actor on that show was recently found out to be grooming,
accused of
or
grooming a
accused of
15-year-old
grooming a
girl.
15-year-old girl. And it's like, are we just going to take that show off of Disney Plus then, or what's?
Well, they didn't even get rid of Kevin Spacey's seasons from House of Cards because no way, they were never going to do that.
That's
was
just not how
always
the
going
business
to-
works.
It's not how the business
but
works.
I find that to be short-sighted, and that's a virtue signal. Like we're going to take it down. It's like
But we're still going to employ so many other people who behave exactly the same way and
Correct.
overlook it.
It's
Yeah.
not that we
Correct.
don't like the behavior; it's that we don't like that we got caught.
Yeah,
Caught doing it. So, and look, on any given day, I will fully admit that, like, given whatever mood I'm in, I might be more indignant one day than I am another. But today's just one of those days where it's like, I can't take it. Like, yes, he is an absolute scumbag, but I don't know if the other actors in that movie, actresses in that movie, are scumbags.
Sure.
or the
and then-
grips, or the all of those people.
And think about this. Okay, so say not even to mention like the people behind the scenes, the actual unsung heroes of the industries. But if there's a breakout performance from another actress in that movie, doesn't she or he or they or whatever deserve the right?
Or Z or Zer.
Or don't they have the right to have their work seen and maybe their career gets boosted? And then you boost the career of somebody who isn't a complete psychopathic piece of garbage. Like it sucks that they're in it, but that's the past, and we can't really we can't get through that until we get done with it. And like Mary said, there is a certain amount of slow motion car crash that is part of going to watch a movie like this. When
We
you're
just
like,
love a good popular culture crisis.
I
to
will-
watch on the sidelines, guys.
I think a good argument for not releasing this movie is just it seems like God doesn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's like it was supposed to come out before the show started.
It was 2016.
Wasn't it?
It was supposed to come out.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was announced before
Yeah.
the show premiered,
Yeah.
and now the show is over.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And let's face it, like when it comes to a movie like this, like Ezra Miller's going to keep working. He was an indie dude beforehand. You'll be an indie dude afterwards if he needs to. But
The
it
most
actually does.
privileged and protected class in the world is the indie soft boy.
Well, also think about this. Like, what if it is like he's like. I'm thinking of like the catch-22. Like this is like this. Like I mean, like imagine like a superhero movie that has that level of a breakout performance, but he gives like the performance of a lifetime, and it's absolutely incredible. And nobody can really make it that just because the movie like it's problematic to them to make the guy who's an absolute psychopath and they can't reward him for that.
Reward the director then. Yeah, or the director for drawing that performance.
The one who drew that performance out of him, All right.
Let's
Good
go to
director.
Super Chats.
Yeah. Great director.
Potatoes for Seamus said Wesley the Incredible and Mr. Bretman and Mary.
That's what we are.
That's us. Tacty Platty said need a Booster Gold movie with Skeet roasting him.
Look, I tried to watch some of the other animated stuff recently, the newer stuff that has what's up.
It's the stink bug.
Stink bugs. Everybody here reacts differently to the stink bugs.
I always think spider first, so that's why.
Yeah.
And man, those newer animated movies are so bad.
Are they?
Like, yeah.
1,000 Foot Deep End said, someone please tell Hannah Claire she's getting her wish. Mike Rowe has made an initially Instagram post about the Shark Week article. Oh, no way. That's funny.
See, we were quick on the ball to cover.
Yeah, where's Mike Rowe in all of this?
Racist Shark Week.
High Voltage 75 said it's Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day.
Yes,
that is all.
That is all. Thank you.
I wonder who started That Is All. I can't even remember now.
I also want to address a couple of things about the Batgirl directors. We didn't even talk about that.
Trauma.
Well, I'm gonna actually put it on screen. This isn't. We're gonna go a little bit out of order here. So
Sure.
the Batgirl directors, like abused spouses, are going back to DC apparently
After their traumatic experience.
Yeah. So it says Batgirl directors. They talk about the film cancellation. It says it was a traumatic experience. Guys, there's an inside joke here at Pop Culture Crisis where I showed Mary and then I showed pretty much everyone this clip. There's a great old video from Clownfish TV where they talk about who's the director of Terminator Dark Fate? Tim
Miller.
Tim Miller. Where he talks about the trauma of Terminator Dark Fate bombing at the box office and
Processing that trauma.
Processing it. And in the video, Neon and Geeky they're drinking, and it's just their reaction to the absolute borderline absurdity of a celebrity director talking about how traumatic it was that the movie he made millions of dollars for didn't do as well as he would have liked at the box office.
Yeah.
And somehow was that what the trauma was? I thought the trauma was that like James Cameron is a dick.
No, the trauma was that the movie bombed. But then he's like, I'm not going to work with James Cameron again because I want access to I want to be in control of my work.
It's more a question of, is James Cameron going to work with you again?
Yeah, right.
Not the other way around.
They ended up, he did Deadpool. He did the first Deadpool, right? Yeah. So he was processing the traumatic experience. And it kind of just goes to show you, like, is there a certain level of, a certain lack of awareness that comes from not understanding how absurd that is, like the hyperbole.
I mean, somehow the absurdity repeats itself with the directors of Batgirl. They say it was a traumatic experience when they learned that the project was being pulled from DC's slate. They went through all the emotions upon hearing the bad news. They said at the time it was pretty unprecedented, like movie history, but in a crazy way.
It's okay with processing like what that means, like, right? Like you lost.
I'm sure it sucks for them. It's just
sucks.
Why do they have to use this language?
It does remind me of when
trauma.
I think I've said this before. When WWE fired CM Punk, they fired him. They sent him express mail on his wedding day, so he got his letter of letter of termination at his wedding. Imagine and these guys were at a wedding when this happened to one of the directors. So he says, there's nothing we can do to influence them. But when you see Brendan Fraser, who's maybe going to win an Oscar for The Whale, it's like maybe they're going to help us out because he's giving an Oscar-winning performance. I'm going to let you on a secret.
Don't hold your breath.
Nobody cares. I mean, I love Brendan Fraser. I know, is it you or Hannah Claire that says that's kind of like the cool thing to do to like Brendan Fraser?
I think I said that because it feels like there's a huge pity party being thrown for him, whether or not it's warranted.
But he's a very likable guy.
People just, I'm sure he doesn't appreciate being treated like a three-legged dog.
Yes.
All the time.
I just don't believe for a second that him winning an Oscar is gonna be like, well, let's give the money back that we got back in that tax credit and just do the movie. Also, so let's go on. This is the fun one, guys. You're gonna have a lot of fun with this one. So
we've got one more super chat though.
Oh, let's go.
Caper2X said, "Go Army, beat Navy, make mine Marvel."
Well, there you go.
That was the last one.
All right. right. So Jennifer Lawrence said maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, but here's the beauty of it. I didn't refresh the browser, so I've still got the tweet up here.
Yes. So Variety hosted this discussion between Jennifer Lawrence and Viola Davis. They tweeted a quote from Jennifer Lawrence and then got ratioed to hell. I think it had like under 100 retweets and 2.5 thousand quote tweets. Then they deleted the tweet. I saw this happen in real time. They replaced it with a new tweet in which Jennifer Lawrence was quoted saying something chopped up and then a video of her saying the full thing. But here's exactly the ridiculous claim she made. She said, I remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie because it wouldn't work. Because we were told girls and boys can both identify with a male lead, but boys can't identify with a female lead. And it just makes me so happy every single time I see a movie come out that blows through every one of those beliefs and proves that it's just a lie to keep certain people out of movies. Keep certain people in the same positions that they've always been in.
Here's the thing. The box offices don't lie. The box office doesn't lie. You're wrong.
She literally believes she was the first lead female in an action movie in 2012.
Angelina Jolie, Salt, Wanted, Tomb Raider. Uma Thurman, Kill Bill. Gina Carano, Haywire. Kate Beckinsale, Underworld and Ultraviolet, Resident Evil, Mila Jovovich, Colombiana, Zoe Saldana, Anne Flux, Charlize Theron, Jennifer Garner, Elektra, and then of course Sigourney Weaver, Alien, and I've got about 90 examples of TV shows that
Charlie's Angels, G.I. Jane, V for
Connor
Vendetta.
Chronicles.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I actually would push back on a couple of those, like Wanted. It's not like Angelina Jolie was the solo star of Wanted.
No, she was. But she
was
the
main point being Jennifer Lawrence just comes
Top
off
villain,
as insanely ignorant of the industry in which she works to think that she is the first or even one of the first lead female actresses in an action movie.
Remember when she used to be America's sweetheart for being so real?
Yeah.
I hated that. I always saw through it because she's like Gigi Hadid also. We eat burgers. We're real, down to earth actresses.
Here's the thing. If you read models. She's obviously abandoned this because the interview that she gives, that she does with Viola Davis, is one of the most mind-numbingly self-indulgent things and self-important things you'll ever read. Here's also my pushback. People identify with male action heroes on both genders because the men want to be the guy saving the girl, and women want to be the person getting saved by the guy. That does not work the other way around because men do not daydream about being saved by women, and women don't really daydream about saving men because it goes against our biology and against how we are as human beings. On average, I'm not saying.
So you're kind of agreeing with Jennifer Lawrence's take in a sense that the male viewers can't always identify with a female lead.
I'm saying that they can, but the idea here is that it's just harder to do. Right? It's not as easy to do. I'm giving you the general idea behind it. The reason why the male action hero is on average more successful is because it's a lot easier to sell that to an audience than it is to sell a woman, because you have to go against human nature to get people to buy into it, which usually means it has to be an extremely charismatic actress. The shooting has to be extremely pronounced and stylistic. There has to be something about it that sells you beyond just the idea that you identify with this person.
And a lot of people would push back on that and say they never felt that way. One tweet said, I can honestly say this never mattered to me, not even as a child. When I found a character I really liked, it didn't matter to me whether that was a man or a woman. And in real life, too, I had both male and female role models. That's how most people conduct themselves outside of Hollywood's weird, insulated culture where men and women are pitted against each other. I think even the precedent that male leads are more relatable to both male and female viewers, or you can identify with them more easily, that precedent is being disrupted because of the recurring theme of a panicky, incompetent, blundering male lead. I think even the new series starring Noah Centineo, in which he's like this outsider recruit to the CIA, the whole trailer is just him panicking and looking like an idiot.
Let's talk about that. Where does Does that come from before Shia LaBeouf in Transformers, the panicky male lead? I'm sure there's tons of examples, but that's the most
like he's
recent.
solely
Yeah.
responsible.
Like, to me, I think of it as like he
That
did
mother.
it in a way that was like charismatic and
Yeah.
worked, but that doesn't mean you keep doing it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I can't think of an example of someone in another case where it's not supposed to be
Make
satire.
it the exception, not the rule. That's all that people are asking for, you know?
Yeah. So
I think one of the problem isn't like they're contriving a problem that isn't. It's a what am I trying to say? It's a misdiagnosis where it's not that men can't identify with female leads or whatever. It's that they don't know how to write it, where they're trying to write, they're just pasting a woman over a man.
Yeah.
Whereas all of the ones you listed are interesting because here's the situation, how would a woman handle it? And they write it that way. Like
Yep.
that's why Ripley is so interesting. That's why Sarah Connor. And obviously those are the cliches for a reason because they're the best versions of it.
even Angelina Jolie in Salt has to walk out on her life because of what's going on, right? Like,
right. Like there's but
two-
the way that they handle, like if you put a woman in like whatever action movie, the way that they approach the situations is different. The way that they handle it is different. A really good example of this actually is National Treasure.
Yeah.
Where like
And we're getting we're getting the female national treasure soon too, the show.
and they're gonna butcher it. But the way that they did Diane Kruger's character and how she like handled those situations versus how Nicolas Cage did was part of the intrigue and like adorableness of the series, right?
Yeah.
And when you say like, well, we're just gonna do what Tim Miller did and do Terminator 2 Judgment Day with all female characters the exact same way,
Yeah.
you're like, what? That's why it feels so disingenuous. That's why it feels so. And then so the only way to defend yourself is to say that men can't identify with female characters, even though they have for the entire history of the movie franchise.
I also find it
of the movie industry.
Oddly insulting to like human beings to tell them like you can, like all you can understand is you. Like that feels like weapons grade projection from a bunch of narcissists who can't understand what it's like to be somebody else that isn't them. When I give you that example, like men, it's easier for like to sell that product of the man identifying with the male lead because of how that works. It's because on average, a couple that's busy, only goes to the movies once a month, like they're not going to want to go see like the guy. In fact, I would say the guy will still most likely still be the one that will go and see that movie over the woman. The woman isn't going to see the action movie with the female lead. The guy still might. It's kind of like the WNBA. Women don't give a crap about the WNBA because like it just doesn't interest women on average. So it's easier to get a male to like the female lead. Now, they would also probably say, can you do that without making them sexualized? Yes, because I don't find most of those ones that I gave, those examples that I gave.
Are you talking about women or men and
making
women?
the women sexualized.
But even the men are.
Yes. Well, it's like, who was it yesterday that I was looking at? They were saying, why are all the men naked in these movies now? Like I was looking at old articles from the Mary Sue where they're all thirst trapping Chris Hemsworth. And I'm like, why is this okay? For this? Is it just the double standard? Is it for what reason? And also there's tons of examples in Hollywood of them almost giving roles to women that really connect with people. As bad as the movie Die Another Day was, people loved Halle Berry as Jinx in that movie. I know it feels like a long time ago, but like she was actually like kind of liked in that movie. And they were talking about giving her a sequel, like her own spin-off.
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde is amazing.
Yeah.
And like but because it approached it that way. It approached it the way. First of all, it was hypersexual. Like they were hypersexualized, given the time period it takes place in. But it wrote it as like, how would a woman in Berlin during this time period handle this? And it was amazing.
Well, I was saying, and maybe like the idea is like the superheroes that gives them the out. They don't have to explain it.
Yeah.
Like with Black Widow, you have to explain it because she doesn't have superpowers. But with most female characters, even I think of Jennifer Garner not just as Elektra, but as Sydney Bristow in Alias. Like you have to explain it. Why are you so good at this? The disguises,
She
the ability
just did,
to
Peppermint too, where she was like an ass kisser.
I didn't
ass kisser.
That too. Also, I want to point out
believe
that
it.
there's nothing more hilarious than a society. I talk about this with activists where I point out that I think that a lot of Gen Z feels robbed of like the last great social justice struggle, meaning like the millennials were there to really push for the legalization of gay marriage, which in America was the last great social injustice. Now we're just looking for things to be upset about all the time. But there's nothing funnier than just women and men in Hollywood constantly pretending they're setting records that don't actually exist because they feel that they want to be trailblazers when they don't realize that it's been going on for years.
And it's bizarre because Jennifer Lawrence has openly seemed so resentful of her career's beginnings in X-Men movies and The Hunger Games because they're franchise movies. They came in a series. Yeah. The fans are either predominantly male or predominantly children, which is not a problem. They are huge money-making franchises, and she doesn't seem to appreciate that that's how she launched her career, to be able to take smaller roles in these more like artsy, thoughtful projects like Causeway, which she never shuts up about. Yeah. Like, she says that, I think also like in this exact conversation, she should have said no to any and all roles that didn't, quote, speak to her. Yeah. Like, she doesn't even know that that's a privilege that a lot of people don't have.
Sometimes they don't. What she doesn't want to admit is the money spoke to her.
Of course.
And that's fine.
But
I don't
she
care
pretends
if the money
that
that's good. Make your
money. She
money.
pretends to be above that.
Yeah.
And really, she's after influencing the youth and all of those little girls out there who want to be Katniss. I wanted to read this other quote from the discussion.
Yeah.
She said, "In Hunger Games, it was an awesome responsibility. Those books were huge, and I knew that the audience was children. I remember the biggest conversation was, how much weight are you going to lose? Doubt it. Yeah. Along with me being young and growing and not able to be on a diet, I don't know if I want all of the girls who are going to dress up as Katniss to feel like they can't because they're not a certain weight. And I can't let that seep into my own brain either." Just like the fact that that's your takeaway from it, it's just like that tweet that I was referencing the other day, showing all of these little girls at Disney who take pictures with the on-site actresses that are dressed up as Rey from Star Wars. Yep. And they caption it, "I don't care what you think of Star Wars making Rey into a Mary Sue. This is what really matters. Because the movie Shut up.
The movie doesn't matter. The message matters.
Shut up. Stop criticizing.
The message. Also, I do want to
message above all.
If I was to play the devil's advocate here and give her the benefit of the doubt, I don't know if this was. I'm assuming this was a spoken interview. And
it was all on video.
If I read this quote again, she says, "I remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie.
Never.
Like, what I imagine is what she meant to say was like, they weren't putting women in the leads of action movies, which is more to say like it's less common rather than they had never done it. That's me giving her the ultimate ultra mega benefit of the doubt.
It still, even if that is a generalization and she realizes that, it shows her own overestimation of her influence on the industry, right?
Well, do you think they're all like that?
Like you wouldn't have been casted in the role that, kind of launched her career without the predecessors in all of these other action movies.
But they do this with everything. It's the first person of this group to be in this, and like it's the first person.
Reminds me of how they talk about LeBron. Like, it's the first time somebody scored this on a Tuesday after eating Taco Bell.
I got to get the link from when they do that.
Fake milestones that mean nothing.
There's a great. I've mentioned this on the show many times. It was either in the movie Little Big League or it was in the movie Major League, where one of the announcers keeps like handing, like, there's an announcer who doesn't speak and he keeps handing them their records that aren't really records. And they do that. John Boy Media, which is like they cover baseball and sports. They have a segment called Stats That Exist But Don't Really Matter. Like, that's what all of this is. It's stats that exist but don't really matter. And even then, they're lying half the time.
Another thing that stuck with me from this interview is that Variety is basically running damage control for Jennifer Lawrence's stupid comments by deleting the tweet where people were criticizing her and then tweeting it again in a more flattering light. It just shows that
it's also fake.
All of these, it's also fake. They're such slime balls and they're so dishonest. And it shows something that we've talked about before, which is that these media outlets are working in tandem with the celebrities that give them media appearances. They are working in partnership, and there's no scrutiny on the celebrities who are out here saying stupid shit.
Where back in the day, they would have been held at least somewhat accountable. There would have been somebody whose job it was to be like, hey, I don't know if that's true. Like is Viola Davis supposed to be like, well, I don't know about that.
Who is the social media manager who decided to delete the tweet simply because it was getting pushback.
That's all. I mean, that's also really, really funny too to me, because it's like, you think that these companies aren't organized. They are that organized, that that there's somebody there monitoring how a tweet does,
right?
And then they pull it down. How dystopian is that even? like this is Variety,
because we have to white knight for Jennifer Lawrence.
It's a puff piece about Jennifer Lawrence and Viola Davis giving each other ultimate high fives and saying yes, because we are strong, independent women that don't need no man in an industry that literally goes out of its way to protect them.
May I recall the interaction where Jennifer Lawrence finishes a longer statement and Viola Davis says, "You're highly articulate." And then Jennifer Lawrence says to Viola Davis, "And you're very beautiful."
Dude, that like imagine being in a room where nobody actually likes each other and they're all lying. Like,
this is how women compliment each other, by the way.
I'm not going to bring up the meme that I always bring up in this case. Yes, women lie to each other by giving each other compliments, and men lie to each other by insulting one another. That's what, most of the time when me and Dane are talking, we are like absolutely like saying the most heinous thing you can possibly say to another human being, because it's a term of endearment. But I also find that to be a lot less. Okay, I find it a lot less damaging to like roast your friends and then maybe once in a while you go just a bit too far. Whereas like there's a buildup of the fakeness of women like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. No, you are.
You have to keep raising the stakes every time.
You're like, oh, like, and there's nothing worse than that than internet, like Instagram comment sections where like people like just suck each other off and just say and say like
vulgar, Brett.
Say a bunch of stuff that you know they don't actually believe. Like, oh my God,
Roger.
you are so beautiful. You are such a queen. Like, you don't freaking care.
That's the media's job, though.
It is their dude. So
let's go to Super Chats. Regatan said, Wesley, play Disco Elysium, an award-winning RPG.
Okay.
Yes.
I've never played an RPG, so
immediate yes. Okay,
yeah. I'll do it.
I need to stop watching YouTube.
Disco
said
Elysium.
Leftoids / druggies both overuse quote therapy language.
Okay, I am on a one-man jihad against the therapy trend that we are in a trend where
self-love.
We're like,
my business failure is a traumatic experience.
But we're in this weird phase now where they even talked about it in that interview with Jennifer Lawrence, where they're like, whether it's this or whether it's therapy. I'm like, they love going to therapy because they just love hearing themselves talk. And most of the time it's about wanting to sound like you have it worse than everyone else. They're just one-uppers. They're like, how effed up can I make my life sound to my therapist? I'm obviously being very, very, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt here. I'm sure I know a lot of people go to therapy and they get something out of it because they go there with the intention of getting better, not going there with the intention of indulging their narcissism. So
yeah, I doubt that A-list celebrities have the intention of doing anything but hear themselves talk.
Well, and plus, I mean, do the therapists in Hollywood really want to help them get better? No.
I would even I would push back a little bit. Not push back. I would say there's a nuance to this where we're laughing at the idea that their experiences in Hollywood is traumatic. I'm sure that they do have a lot of trauma. I'm sure that being in a room that you were talking about and your entire life being that way is extremely damaging to your mental health, and you should get help when it comes to the thing. Like, imagine never believing that anybody's ever telling you the truth about yourself. Like, that is terrifying to me. But the idea that like I had a movie and no longer is that movie coming out, but
or I had a movie and it made money but not as much as I wanted it to.
Yeah, I got to make a movie that James Cameron, probably his childhood hero or like teenage hero. I don't know how old Tim Miller is. Sorry, but like maybe the only trauma I could probably find from working with James Cameron, no matter how terribly acted, is just to find out what a pussy he is. You know what I mean? Like, just to be like, oh man, you made Aliens and you're this big of a cuck. Like
you're like, hey man, want to go to the range after this? He's like, sorry, I don't like guns.
Yeah, exactly.
But he also pretends to be hard in the media still.
Well, except for the fact that masculinity is a toxin, or testosterone is a toxin that men should expel from their system. Like, that's so funny to me.
But then he's like, I just, laid my balls on the table to that Fox executive and just, totally mogged him.
Imagine being like in a world so protected where it can act like that's a real thing. Like, you just don't have to have.
You can body slam a production assistant, as David O. Russell did.
Or no, what I'm saying is like, imagine living in a society so protected that you think that the ability to be masculine doesn't need to exist in society. That's insane.
Even when you're doing it yourself in your own career.
And you make movies about it.
Yeah. High Voltage 75
movie,
said,
yeah.
pop culture quiz. Brett, what pro wrestler played Super Shredder in Secret of the Ooze? No cheating.
The answer is Kevin Nash.
Is this pop culture or is that
Yes.
just wrestling trivia?
It's both.
I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
2 in Secret of the
Yes.
Ooze. And
Okay.
it's also, I found this great like photo book Instagram where it's like 35 millimeter pictures taken behind the scenes during the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies filming process, and it's just absolutely like a photo snap in time. It's incredible to see a lot of that stuff, considering how long ago that was.
You ever caught the PA hiding in the kitchen?
In
the original?
Yeah. Another one of my favorites. This is a little bit off topic. There's a scene in the movie Three Ninjas where Colt's mom comes in to talk to him, and then when she leaves, her earring falls off. And every time I see it, I can't it was like the first thing I caught when I was a kid, where I'm like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen.
You did the Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, basically.
Harold Wiley said, I got Brendan Fraser drunk in a bar in Savannah 4 years ago.
Incredible.
He left with an entire bachelorette party following him. He was doing fine that night.
Good for him.
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
hey, it was a bachelorette party. They haven't gotten married yet. It's fine.
It's like Tulsa King. They'll just glom onto any random guy who's hanging out at a bar.
Yeah, but let's be fair. In Tulsa King, Stallone
That was ridiculous.
Stallone is still in phenomenal shape and like full of Botox and looking good for his age. He doesn't look 75.
I mean, tell me that interactions like that one ever happen in the real world.
I bet you they happen. I'm not saying
Really?
regularly, but I bet you it's happened before.
Nah. Caper2X said, Brett, Mary, were those her words on her PR team? I don't know what this is.
Or
refer-
her
or her PR team. No, that was her. It's on video.
That was and it was an interview for Variety, right? So
It wasn't really an interview. It was just like
them
they
talking.
host conversations between actors, which is I can't think of something I'd want to watch less.
Yeah.
R. Fontanes said Terminators 1 and 2 had the perfect feminist character. Sarah Connor went from a regular chick to a believable kick-ass hero.
Well, also, feminists wouldn't support the idea of a mother wanting to protect a child now because they don't want women to have kids.
Johnny Derp said Mary, the past tense of cast, is cast. That is all.
Are you going to read Bad App's last
Story
one?
about her post-apocalyptic career.
Yeah, I'm not going to read that bad app. Sorry.
We don't know.
Let's move on.
Let's do it. All right, guys. So I was curious. I saw Christian Harloff did like a 30-second clip after he walked out of Avatar: Way of Water. He loved it. He said it was really, really good. And we've got the shills here coming out. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this. This is less of an egregious example of like whenever a Marvel movie comes out, guys, I assume that all of it is shilling. And that all of it is just, we're falling in line. We're lockstep with this because it's what we're supposed to like. But this is still a Disney property. But I'm not sure if I really buy that, the critics just like it because they know that everyone else is doesn't like it. Like a lot of people push back on. Like a lot of times it feels like they like Marvel movies because everyone's pushing back against Marvel. I feel like most people just either really want to see this or don't care.
There's a weird posture in all of these new early reviews where the critics are kind of white knighting for James Cameron and simultaneously praising the film, but more because they want to defend James Cameron for some reason, and I don't know why.
They're like, we loved it when he tried to put that Fox executive in his place. They're like, we don't like Fox, even though
You think
Fox.
Harloff is a shill?
Oh no, I didn't mean to put him in the same category there. I just saying like that his was the first one that I caught because they're not first reactions or they're not reviews. They're first reactions. I don't know when the embargo is lifted on this. I do know that the later an embargo lifts on a movie, the worse off it is for its for what it says about the movie. Because the idea is here is that they hold the review, they hold your ability to release your review as long as possible, so that people don't see it before it opens if the reviews are bad.
Eric Davis swears that he wasn't paid to praise this film.
I mean, it would be cooler if somebody's like, "Hey, they paid me."
But like when they tweet stuff like this, that's just like. There's not one downside they list to the movie. Yeah. It, of course, sounds like shilling.
Yeah, but first reactions, like, there are a couple here that say, like, man, it was a little bit long, which is even that's an understatement. Look, guys, I'm going to start, like, a lot of people want us to have, like, ratings review systems. I am going to have, like, a system that takes off points for whatever my system that doesn't exist is for movies that are over a certain length. If you are over 2 hours... miss me with that nonsense. Like, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, even like the Zack Snyder ones, which are self-indulgent, overly long. At least it's at home, and I don't
These
have
days,
to fucking.
The budgets are too big. The movies are too long.
Yeah, they are. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't mean to swear.
Sorry, Roger.
That was a
Relax,
mistake.
Brett.
I apologize, guys. Well, I'm not even.
We're gonna have to bleep you.
I'm not even emotional right now. so it says, as an Avatar stan, I had high hopes for Avatar: The Way of Water. For me, it totally delivers. Sure, it's a little long, but worth it for the gorgeous visuals, wonderful new characters, a total thrill. I'm not sure I buy the wonderful new characters part. That feels tacked on. Yeah. I do 110%. There it is again, me giving that number. Buy that the visuals are gorgeous. That they literally developed an entirely new camera to shoot this.
They said the trailers didn't do it justice. A lot of people were praising the scope and the vibrancy of the colors. I really couldn't care less.
Well, then,
and also another person said like the slow parts of the movie where you would expect to be able to like bolt out for a bathroom break, you're just so enthralled by the ambient music and the environment. You're like immersed, and I don't care. I don't care. And in a movie this anti-human, in my opinion, I think that there's no visual aspect that could redeem that. I hate that this movie is so misanthropic. And one person responded to that tweet particularly and said, I must be the only one bothered by the misanthropy that's apparently the selling point for a lot of people. It's exactly the same as the first one. There's this stupid resistance politics being pushed, climate change messaging being pushed that is just under your nose if you're not looking for it. And they're continuing on that. Or it's like a glorified version of Tarzan, a glorified version of Pocahontas.
Last of the Mohicans.
Last of the Mohicans. Other people said it had Titanic vibes, which isn't a selling point for me. That's so lame.
Hey, I love Titanic. I mean, I've only seen it a couple of times.
Titanic is fine. I just hate Rose.
It's but it's also a product of a less cynical time, where that type of, like, one of the things I hate about society now is like when people apply their cynical actually I shouldn't say I hate it. I love it too. It's just one of those days where I would dislike it, where they apply cynical beliefs to like things that were made in earnest. So it's like Titanic, it's really just the story of this woman cheating on her husband on a cruise. Like, that's really all it is. She's like, it's the story of me cheating on my husband with a homeless man on a cruise. And
I don't think that's not feminist messaging in the 90s.
That's it's accurate, but it's like, depending on my mood, like I can get a huge kick out of that, or be like, geez, why isn't anyone ever real anymore?
Celine Dion left no crumbs.
Hey, you leave Celine Dion.
Wow, Titanic was really the first Hallmark Christmas movie.
Oh my gosh, I saw this insufferable tweet today about, like, I want to see a Hallmark Christmas movie about a woman who breaks up with her bigoted small town boyfriend, moves to the city, and then discovers the magic of Christmas by celebrating it with people of all creeds and backgrounds.
So then it wouldn't be
Watch
Christmas.
it backwards.
I almost vomited.
There's a YouTube an Instagrammer named Max the Very Good Boy who does what are called Hallmark movie pitches. And they're very, very funny skits, and they're all basically the same thing. He's like, so she's a small town, or she's a big city lawyer, and she goes into a little town so that she can work on this project. And she meets this guy, and he's 6 feet tall, and he's got rippling abs, and the whole, because all of them are the same.
He's
so
a lumberjack. Yeah,
he's a lumberjack
with a heart of gold.
He's like, she's a single mother with a daughter, and he's a single dad with a son. Like, all this stuff, it's like it's all the same. I do want to ask this question. There's a barrier, a hurdle to be kind of leaped here, in that we talk a lot about how the CGI of modern era is what takes us out of movies and makes them feel less real to us. If this movie is supposed to be selling me on its messaging and its characters, I'm going to need the CGI to be not just exceptional, but above exceptional. And that seems to be hopefully what they've accomplished here. But that's a lot to ask of something like this.
I crap on Avatar a lot. But I'll say this about it. And this as the sequel, if it does do the things that Eric Davis says that it does, it brings more emotional punch. It has more of a soul. That's the things that I say about Avatar. It's like, did it look great? Sure.
Yeah.
But it had no soul. It felt so generic. It felt so formulaic. Literally, the object that they are there to Mine is called Unobtainium,
Yeah.
which is the most uninspired. I mean, that joke has been made at that.
Uninspired.
James Cameron, you're such a
Uninspirium, yeah.
genius.
Yeah. It's so stupid.
Unavailabilium.
In its like obviousness. So if this does bring some nuance, if this does bring like what emotion that rings true, then I'm inclined to believe that they had a wonderful time, and I hope they do. I am not the person. I know I've hated a lot of movies that we've seen recently, but like not hated, disliked. I like to like things. Like I try to find the things about it that I like. And
sounds like me.
Yeah, I try. Yeah, like even with Wakanda Forever, like I tried to find things about it to like, but it just felt so. Like I'm not even mad at them. It's like, man, you made this during the hardest time in the history of the world to make a movie, and it shows. Yeah. Sorry, I have to judge you just like I judge everything else. But this, like, if it does these things, I have a little bit of hope, especially with how long it is. I hope that it does have these things. We're going to be sitting there for a long time.
What movie did use the pandemic the best? Which movie did the best? Like, did the best coming out of the pandemic?
Oh, like which one managed?
Like seemed to where it didn't seem to affect the.
Oh, gotcha.
Would Glass Onion be up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they included it, but it wasn't super important to the storyline. I still would have preferred if there was never any reference to masks or to COVID in any type of movie. Like, it's worse on TV. It's very annoying on TV.
It dates it, and it's only been like 2 years.
Yeah, what's the Margot Robbie, Christian Bale. Amsterdam. They made that during the pandemic,
that
right?
would have been
I never thought like, oh, this was made during a pandemic. I never thought like, oh, there's not enough people in the room or whatever. Like it just felt good.
So like I said, I don't feel the same type of hesitancy to trust these reviews the way I would if this was a Marvel movie, which for some reason is just this weird battleground for the culture war. Like, not even a Marvel movie, but like, especially if it's like a female-led Marvel movie, like we're gonna have so much fun when when Miss Marvel is coming, or The Marvels is coming out, and we get to talk about how it's getting supposedly review bombed good or supposedly getting review bombed bad, and it's the first. That's gonna be the first female-led action movie of all time. Just like how Disney has had their first gay character like 92,776 times. We're going to have like the first female. It's going to be the first female-led movie starring 3 women. Oh wait, Charlie's Angels. That came out post. Yeah, it's going to have to make stuff up for it to be
first
any type
female
of,
lead whose shoe size is exactly 6.57.
Yes.
Like,
thank you.
Just completely arbitrary. As for the visuals and the amount of praise that the visuals in the sequel's getting already, I'm really checked out. Like.
Yeah.
The fact that they're praising like the way the water, it looks so realistic. Like you could have just filmed water. You know?
That's very hard to do.
And even then it takes me out. Like and then they're trying to distract from the ugly message really that's being peddled in it with the beautiful visuals. The message is damning humanity.
Yeah.
Like, the more damning it is of humanity, the better. F humanity and all of its pursuits to, better itself or the quality of life or technology. Just like any pioneering human spirit is damned by this message. And they're distracting from it with, like, something like ambient music backgrounds that I would see in a nail salon, like genuinely the same shit.
Also, that's kind of indicative of the world we live in now, because any type of human of amazing invention is now liable for criticism, because mass producing anything that gets made now has to be questioned under the guise of climate change. So it's like
it's so preoccupied with the message and the visuals, and I have a feeling that it's going to bore me and it's not going to tell a good enough story to make up for it. Yeah.
Plus, I admit I have a harder time connecting with not real characters. It's why I like the DC animated movies, but in general, animated productions don't hit me the way that live action stuff does. So they're already at a disadvantage there, that I'm just not going to be very interested in most of what's going on here. But I will say, like you, I am open and excited to be proven wrong. And like it's kind of a win-win either way for us, right? Like either it's bad and we've got stuff we can talk about because it's bad, or it's good and we've got stuff to talk about because it's good. Like it's just
I have a little bit more room for the nuance of this kind of message than I think you do. Where like I'm an ardent capitalist as well, but I also hate soullessness. So like the idea of like, do I hate Soulless mass production, sure, I do.
Yeah, but it's
I'm like Alex Jones right now. Like, I'm a pioneer. I'm a human.
I'm a human being.
I know right now
love
the
it.
chat is going to be asking for more of that voice. They are going to ask for more. But here's my problem with that is, yes, you don't like say that last part again. You said you are a ardent capitalist,
Yeah.
but
I hate soulless mass production,
Okay,
where things it
that's
becomes no longer about the what you're doing, but an exploitative.
That's great.
That's true in all things.
And true, but it's being mass produced and sold to you.
Yes,
which is why it's hypocritical.
Yes,
and
I
stupid.
agree 100%.
Like,
That would be
it's,
the other side of it, where it's like, yeah, I hate that they like. Can I agree with a certain sliver of that to where like you're no longer like the idea of creating a product that will create efficiency in somebody so that you can sell them another product. That's not capitalism. That's corruption, right? But that's what this is doing. Where that's why they make movies and TV like this. Is they make it unfulfilling so that you'll have to buy the next product. Yeah. They don't make great movies. So they make almost good movies. So you're like, oh, that didn't hit the spot. Let me watch another one.
Have you ever
that's soulless and
have you ever
horrible.
seen Wayne's World?
Yes.
When he finds out that the guy there you can't get to the next level, so the kids have to keep pumping in quarters, so you can't actually advance to the next level at the arcade.
Yeah, if you can't be satiated by the product, then you actually have no product.
Well, yeah, and then once you're satiated by it, then it's then you're good for a while, and maybe you'll lose interest by the time the next one comes around. Like Netflix, they make it just good enough for you to keep watching, but not enough to
feel fulfilled.
Yeah. So, all right, we got some super chats. Are we going to read any of those, Mary?
Bad App said, I highly recommend seeing Santa Jaws.
Well, then Santa Jaws it is. All right, we are moving on.
Yeah.
So, guys, Jenna Ortega is in trouble.
She is getting slammed on Twitter by deranged hypochondriacs because she filmed the famous dancing scene in Wednesday while waiting for a result to a COVID test. This is revealed in an interview she did with Enemy. Here's exactly what she revealed about it. She said, it's crazy because it was my first day with COVID, so it was awful to film. I woke up and it's weird. I never get sick, and when I do, it's not very bad. I had body aches. I felt like I'd been hit by a car and that a little goblin had been let loose in my throat and was scratching the walls of my esophagus. She's very expressive.
I love the over the top visuals.
She said,
go in, queen.
They were giving me medicine between takes because we were waiting on the positive result. I asked to redo it, but we didn't have time. I think I probably could have done it better. And then Enemy reached out to the production company MGM behind Wednesday, and they confirmed that strict COVID protocols were followed, and once the positive test was confirmed, production removed Jenna from set. So I at first thought that she had gotten a negative test in the beginning of that day and a positive one at night. Apparently they didn't have a result yet, so they decided to just go for it because they were under some time constraints, and it seemed like they didn't have time to wait.
It proves that in the end, the money comes before all. Like,
of course,
you can lie all you want. Also,
I guess they're probably scolding her for revealing this information in the press now.
I bet. Well, also,
poor girl.
We had who was it? Greg Ellis was here as a guest. He was fascinating to talk to, and he discussed how the COVID protocol testing is just a racket in Hollywood now. It's just a way to make money. Imagine being those companies making all that money off of testing and not expecting them to continue to exploit it, especially in an industry that literally gets guilted into stuff all the time. So they're like, oh my gosh, we have to be very careful. We're being very careful. We're testing everyone every day. And
it's like in Glass Onion where Birdie says, it's okay, everyone here is in my pod. As long as you follow the arbitrary rules of this, flavor of the week, you're fine.
This point, it's all just a see me thing too for people online, right? To look at somebody who did blank. I would never do blank.
Yeah.
That's all the COVID. Nobody actually cares when somebody actually gets COVID. It's not even like it was shortly after it started where you're like, oh my God, well,
no, I thought
fingers crossed, best wishes. Now it's
okay,
see you in 3 days.
If anything, this proves that Jenna Ortega is really good at working under pressure because this scene went viral on social media after the show came out, and it's one of the huge draws for new viewers by word of mouth. So if anything, she should be praised for being able to work under conditions where she feels
the Michael
terrible,
Jordan of acting.
right?
Yeah.
Well, not just that. You're saying Michael Jordan because he hits up who they're playing the Jazz or whatever.
The flu
and
game.
Flu game. But another good example is in John Wick 1, when they filmed the entire scene inside the bathhouse, John Wick's lead actor, Keanu Reeves, was sick as a dog and had to do all of the action scenes himself. Well, I mean, I don't know about all of them, but, he is famously known for doing most of his own stunt work, and it's kind of lent with,
Or he did The Matrix with a broken back.
Yeah, right? We were talking yesterday. I was bemoaning people not liking pro wrestling, and I was talking. I like half kidding, but I was talking about how in 2000 when the wrestler Triple H tore his hamstring, basically the muscle wrapped around his leg while he was wrestling, and he finished the match like an absolute psychopath. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin, when he broke his neck, had to finish the match technically after he got dumped on his head, and literally just he was supposed to the match was supposed to be 20 minutes longer. He basically basically kind of picks the dude up, drops him. It looks completely ridiculous because he's clearly hurting, and then falls on top of him because he can't move.
That's something to be proud of, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed like Jenna Ortega mentioned this incident because she's proud of being able to film a scene like this under pressure and not feeling well. And then now she's being performatively scolded for it on social media. So here are what people had to say.
Actually, before we do that, why don't we change the narrative here? Let's do what they do and say she is the first actress to film a noteworthy scene with COVID and have
come up with a milestone and then call it a day, right?
That's all she has to do.
First Latina actress to film an iconic scene with COVID.
Well, they don't have to make the subcategory anymore because she would be the first, so it's even bigger award.
This one tweet said, "This is a bad thing, right? We all agree that this is not some persevering through hardship moment.
Yes, it
It's
is.
why the F didn't she get sent home? She could get horrendously sick or infect others kind of moment."
See, they don't care about her getting horrendously sick. They care about the idea that she didn't virtue signal and not get other people sick. Believe it or not, when Keanu Reeves had to do that whole scene with the flu, he was actually literally fighting with other people, which means he's much more likely to actually get a bunch of other people sick.
Another one said Jenna Ortega having COVID on set and working unmasked around other unmasked performers is not a flex. She should not be praised for working while sick. The above-the-line crew could have possibly disabled or killed someone for their irresponsibility. Imagine tweeting like this in December 2022, by the way. No one is listening to you anymore. No one cares.
I admit, when I go out and I see people look, I am the first person to, at least on my good days when I'm not being a piece of crap, I assume that look, if you're wearing the mask, I want you to be able to do that. And I'm going to assume that maybe you're immunocompromised and you're just being safe. I'm not going to judge you for it. I will freely admit that on my less good days, I'm like, what are they freaking doing? I get judgmental. I try to not do that as much as possible. But it is it's almost 2023. Seriously. Granted, this would have been filmed late last year?
Probably last year, yeah. But still, that's rather late in the game. And I think, they're fear-mongering because they don't want to let anyone feel good about doing work during the
COVID,
pandemic.
Yeah. She's like, sorry, I couldn't work from home.
Yeah. You should have filmed this entire series on Zoom something.
Those absolutely dystopian GIFs in pictures are still on Instagram stories where you can still look up stay home, stay safe, be a hero, stay home. Just absolutely dystopian, evil, corporatist nonsense.
Yeah. This is I don't want to compare what I do to what she does on any level, but it does remind me she should have gone home. That just reeks of not knowing what's at stake.
Yeah.
And like,
or that you've never been part of something that had that much riding on it.
right. Like I don't, what I do doesn't have that much writing on it, but when I see the comments that are like, you guys should have done this, you have no idea what, like how hard it is to get something like this done. And it would be so much worse for the people involved if
Wesley,
she did go home.
On your shirt.
Stink bug.
Oh shit.
What we should start doing, we should start rating everyone by how they handle the stink bugs.
Yeah. I just think spider.
We'll have like a freak out hall of
I'm not
fame.
afraid of stink bugs, but I think spider, and I am afraid of those. So.
Guys, what I'm going to need you to do is join the PCC subreddit and make a supercut of everyone freaking out or not freaking out to the reaction to stink bugs.
Anyway, sorry for that, veering off of the topic.
But no, they have no idea how much worse it would be for her to go home. Like you said, they're under some sort of time constraint.
They didn't even have time to refilm
those
it after she wanted to refilm.
They would, those people would probably rather just get a little bit sick than not have the show come out on time or to the level that they want it to. They probably already were making concessions. They probably already were missing things that they would have put in the show. Like,
also,
it's absurd.
Shimmy Shelley in the chat is correct. They love the pandemic because it made them feel special.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like, that fear that all of them have about the existential dread about climate change, the world is ending. And we talk a lot about off air about like every generation feels like their generation is like the end times, but this new generation, it's kind of pathological, and COVID tapped into that really heavily. And so they don't understand that to the rest of the world with perspective, they have jobs, they have things that need to be accomplished. Lots of money went into making this happen. They don't get to just walk away. But it's also Hollywood's own fault for virtue signaling about all this stuff.
What drives me? I think we've talked about this before, but have you ever seen The Mist, the movie?
Yeah.
No,
I have no. I'm thinking of something else.
Okay, so Marcia Gay Harden's in that movie, and she plays this like I don't know what you call it, a religious zealot. Okay. Like a Christian religious zealot who's accusing everybody of being sinners, and that's why this is happening to them. And so every character, like she whips everybody up into a frenzy by accusing them of being sinners, and that's why God is punishing us. And it's like that is their take on what a religious person is, with no sense of self-awareness whatsoever. Yeah. That is what they are by making that movie, and it has, like, COVID empowered that to such a degree to like the pleasure they get from shaming somebody, like, and don't understand like that is what they can make their movies to do. Yeah, like it's this weird. I don't even know what to call it.
I really hate that behavior. I hate that behavior. I hate the behavior when they like really, really make fun of Midwestern people. Yeah. When they make fun of flyover states and Southerners. Like, it's one thing if you're watching a show and every character is a hyperbolic, over the top kind of caricature. It's another when all the other characters are kind of normal and regular, and then the Southern character or the Midwestern character is ridiculously over the top, either ignorant, uninformed, racist, sexist, homophobic. Like, that's fine. If you want to play to a trope for a larger production where all the characters are like that, fine. But then make the cop character like a super big. He's got to have a Punisher sticker. Yeah. He's got to have the flat top and the Oakleys, and talk about how he's like, I'm keeping these. You have to make all the characters like that. You can't just make some of the characters like that. But yeah, I think that is it partially because we talked about for like Jennifer Lawrence, there's a pathology around the people in Hollywood that's this weird sense of both entitlement, disconnection from the regular, from regular people in the world. Like you said, she was kind of an everyman or an every woman. She was every woman, like Dane.
Or at least trying to be.
Yeah, or pretended to be. And the mask coming off now is just kind of reinforcing what we already knew, that they were actors all along, and they were never, like, there is no shared reality anymore where you look at like, maybe I can delude myself. Like, I know Tom Cruise is not a man of the people, but I can appreciate the outcome of the current grift he's running, or the current hill he's dying on, which is that theaters are important and audiences are important. Do I believe he goes home at night and thanks the Lord because people watch his movies? No, I don't.
Well, he's a Scientologist. So
he thanks somebody else.
He thanks somebody.
Xenu, that's who he takes.
I think that this is a kind of a unintentional initiation ritual for Jenna Ortega into like being a bigger name actress.
Yeah.
Like, these are the type of expectations that she's going to be held to going forward. Here's the thing. I don't fault Jenna Ortega at all for working when she may or may not have been COVID positive. she was just doing her job. What bothers me is the double standard and the hypocrisy of Hollywood behind the scenes doing all of these risky scenes where all of the team could get sick, but then in the public eye, they say, stay home, save lives, to the people with ordinary jobs that provide a lot more value practically to society. That's the problem. And Dane does point this out, like, what's the use in pointing out the hypocrisy all the time? But, like, what else can we do?
Yeah, and that is particularly disheartening sometimes, because there really is no truth but power to them. They don't care that they're hypocritical because they're not worried about that. It's why a lot of politicians are so evil, because they will say one thing and do another instantly, and nobody actually cares, because most people aren't paying attention, and the people that are paying attention are their enemies, so they don't care.
It's also like the person you're shaming right now has made so much more of an impact on culture than you ever will, and you're likely salty about that.
Sketch Therapy says, this is about insurance. Tom Cruise was screaming about insurance. The COVID insanity was about insurance on set. Yeah, I mean, he points that out when he went through his rant. I mean, he's basically saying, he's like, look, it's costing a fortune to keep the set open. The least you guys could do is like follow the protocols that are in place. Do those protocols make sense? Maybe, maybe not. He's not a scientist. He doesn't know. He knows that this is what we have to do to keep the movie open and running, and that's what we need to do to get it done. But that's not even the case for Jenna Ortega, because she did what she was told. It's not like she didn't like she said, no, I'm like faked being like, somebody should make a meme of her like being one of the people who doesn't admit they're a zombie that got bitten. Like, she's like, no, I'm fine. Is that what she is now? She's a soon to turn walker that just doesn't want to admit it. Be real.
If anything, it probably helped her film the scene.
She's all out of it and weird.
Let's go to Superchats.
Let's do it.
Potatoes for Seamus said, do that voice again. LOL.
Mary,
do I do a great Alex Jones impression?
Please do a great. Give us a classic.
I forget all of that, what that quote was, but I loved it.
Tell us about gay frogs.
Look, all of my favorite Alex Jones quotes are not allowed on YouTube, so I'll just stop myself right there.
That's a fair point.
I need to stop watching YouTube said, it's a purity spiral. Look up the word. I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry.
Baitsoa.
Oh, Baitsoa?
Yeah, spoiled rich Americans, basically. It's a Japanese term.
Yeah. Well, isn't that Chinese?
Or Chinese. One of the two.
Okay.
But it's basically the idea that we in the West think that we have anything to really complain about is bonkers compared to the rest of the world, when it's like we talk about now. Like, I had a lot of respect for the celebrities that were at least speaking up during the recent incidents regarding Iran and women's rights in hijabs and everything like that. The ones that spoke up, at least they're talking about something real, and they're not telling me that me and Barack Obama's oceanfront properties are going to go under in 2024 when I one day get oceanfront properties.
Can't wait.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Johnny Derp said, modern Hollywood is going to be a gold mine for the future iterations of MST 3K style shows. Wait, what does that stand for?
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, duh. Sit back and let the cringe flow. That is all.
Like,
that's true.
There will be an era, like time will pass, and there will be a clarity of perspective.
After the nuke.
Well, not just that, but disavow. But like, there will have to be a passage of time for people that just weren't there for it.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about this before. Like, imagine watching a movie 20 years from now and people are wearing masks and the kids in the movie are just like, what the why? like where there's random scenes of people wearing masks, or there'll be humor about how standing 6 feet apart doesn't really do anything, and why do I have to wear a mask to walk through a restaurant and then not wear it when I sit down? Like, those movies will get made by brilliant artists in the future. We just have to get through it now. And the worst part will be when they get made, all the people that were hysterical now will pretend that they weren't.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh my God, I was like so against it. I was like, every day I was walking out and I was shaming people in masks. I'm like, no, you were shaming people that weren't wearing masks.
Biddy Beastly said, Mary, what characteristics do you want in a female lead protagonist? How are they different in various genres? Action, romance, comedy? Do you have a favorite female lead? Why is it Uma Thurman? I don't know why you would assume that my favorite female lead is Uma Thurman. Is not.
We missed a couple.
Really?
We have one from BD Beasley that says, say what you want about wrestling. We didn't read that one. Say what you want about wrestling, but you can't fake
I'm
being...
sorry. I was reading it from the wrong person.
Yeah, but you can't fake being thrown 16 feet off Hell in a Cell by The Undertaker in 1998. So freaking awesome. Also, both of Mick Foley's early biographies are really, really good. Foley is good. And Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Blood, Sweat, Tears, and Sweat Socks or whatever. Blood and Sweat Socks is both of his books are really, really, really good. Or it's called Three Faces of Foley. He's kind of this like late 90s earnest writing about, back at a time when there was far more of a veil around that industry. And he's nuts on Twitter now. He's a social justice lunatic now, but he was always a good guy. So I could see you getting like,
I love how you always preface that. Like you say like, he's nuts on Twitter,
but
you know exactly who is nuts on Twitter.
Yeah. Well,
I'm on Twitter and I don't even know that.
So, he's fantastic. Also, I posted a fantastic meme in my story today. It says The Underdraker, and it's like a Drake mixed with The Undertaker, like Photoshop. It's amazing, guys.
Bad up. I'm not reading that. And then the question about female leads came from Johnny Wolfblood. I'm sorry, I misread that. My favorite female lead is not Uma Thurman. I actually wrote a piece for Evie a couple of years ago saying that Cher Horowitz is like the best female lead in my opinion because she is able to admit her faults, but she starts out as like being incredibly superficial, which I find relatable.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what traits should they have across genres. I mean, mainly I would just find it refreshing to see a woman who acknowledges her need for a man or her need for support from other people because women are other oriented and less individualistic.
It's funny when I look back through my list of strong independent women in television, that tends to be where the connection is, where what allows you to connect with most of them is that it's not that they're not Mary Sue's at their job. Most of them are really, really almost suspiciously good at whatever they do. But with a television show where they've been that person for a long time, that makes sense because you're not telling the story of how they got that way. But the conflict and the relatability comes when they're not good in their personal life. And,
when self-reliance leads them to downfall.
There's a lot of examples in shows like that are very, very good. It's women in law enforcement or women doing this or some females sci-fi character, and they're great at whatever they do, but they're not necessarily the best at picking a man, or they don't have a family, or they don't have this or that. Sure. And sometimes it's even better if they're like if they're characters that have a family and maybe they're not the best, like they're trying to figure it out. That was that's a pretty common trope as well. Mm-hmm. Like the examples I would give are ones that nobody would have thought have like heard of because they're too stupid.
You know what show did really well with like that, differentiating male from female and even race was Scrubs. I don't know. How it handled.
Yeah,
how to handle that type of thing.
A lot of that wouldn't be made nowadays too. Also, an example of here's an example. Here's a funny one of one that is an example of an awful character, but I love it anyways. Is the show Unforgettable, starring it was the lady who played Samantha Spade on Without a Trace, but Poppy Montgomery, and she has an eidetic. She has the condition where you can remember everything that's ever happened to you, and that's the trope of the show. But she's like, I love that actress because she was great in Without a Trace, but on this show, she's insufferable. But almost like you're programmed because you like the actress. Like, I can make it through parts of it, and like, she's too good at her job. She's annoyingly glib. She's not really good in romance, but she's snarky about it, so it's not endearing either. Like, it works still, but it's only because I have a... Like,
are they playing it as if she's supposed to be likable?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was
so
never.
It's not like Dr. House-esque where it's like.
No, it kind of is, but it's
okay.
like, and I kind of make that as like that doesn't always. That's a lot harder for women to pull off than men in those cases. Like it's harder to buy that in female characters than it is male characters. But it's like it's the way she would talk to a lot of people in the show, because it's annoying when somebody has a condition that she didn't work for, meaning she was born with this condition to remember everything that she's ever experienced in her life, and then uses it as like a way to roast people. Like that's not funny. It's not fun. That's just kind of annoying. But I still like the show. Makes no sense.
I don't know if I should read that next one from Bad App. That's up to you, Brett.
Let me see.
Shimmy Shelley said, "Salty Brett needs baguette."
He wants to go. We're not.
Yeah, let's.
We're
skip
not playing.
that.
We're not playing that game, my friend.
I love how a Spotify listener would just be like, "What the f was that?" Big Dave sent us 99 cents without a message. Thank you, Big Dave. Potatoes for Seamus said, "Any special guest for tomorrow?"
Well, not tomorrow because tomorrow's Thursday.
Not tomorrow, but on Friday. I
Yes.
think that you guys have something to look forward to.
Yes. Well, and it's been announced on
Tomorrow, though, I think we might have a guest you haven't seen before. To be determined.
Yes.
Let's move
Oh,
on.
actually, I want to address Dragon's Talon
Oh, yeah?
1001 says, body of proof, Dana Delaney's character. Her home life is a mess, and she has to leave being a surgeon because of nerve damage. That show is freaking fantastic. It's Jeffrey Arndt, like early on, but like he married Christina Hendricks. And like they met on that show. And Dana Delaney's an example of an actress who does have the charisma to pull off being kind of annoyingly really good at her job, but it's not like she doesn't want to teach people around her. And her home life is an absolute disaster. Like her issues with her mom is a judge. That show's really, really good. It only got 3 seasons. It also has some of Jerry Ryan's funnier work in that she's like an extra character, and she's clearly like it feels like they played against types. Like in this show, almost any other time they did it, Dana Delaney's character would have played Jerry Ryan's character, and Jerry Ryan would have been the lead, but they went a different direction. But very, very good show. Only a couple of seasons. It's an easy watch.
All right, let's move on. It seems like Mindy Kaling has officially entered her anti-woke era. So we're going to get into it.
By the way, guys, I'm vehemently against the joke or the term in my era, in whatever
in
era.
Blank era.
I mean, no.
I like it because it's a generational thing, but you do you, Brett.
Yeah.
So Mindy Kaling went on Good Morning America and said the following about The Office. She said, "The writers who I'm still in touch with now, we always talk about how so much of that show we probably couldn't make now. Tastes have changed, and honestly, what offends people has changed so much now. I think that actually is one of the reasons the show is popular, because people feel like there's something kind of fearless about it or a taboo that it talks about." She also said that her character on the show, Kelly Kapoor, would have quit Dunder Mifflin to become an influencer and then probably be canceled almost immediately. And actually, most of the characters on that show would be canceled by now.
I don't think it's brave. It was brave because at the time it was just the norm.
Thank you, guys.
You guys. That is so nice.
This is such a calm sound compared to the air horns before. Let's never get rid of this.
Like we'll just keep Santa sounds all year round.
Yeah.
Or ho ho ho, happy, and then just like insert random holiday of that month. Ho ho ho, Merry 4th of July.
Completely random.
Ho ho ho, Merry Passover.
As long as you do the voice for it.
Thank you, guys.
So we know that The Office made jokes about race and ethnicity and sexual orientation and workplace harassment, all of that. That's stuff that screenwriters today are afraid to touch upon, even when it's a joke made at the expense of the ignorant character. But you can see that in The Office, it's funny because these jokes are at the expense of characters who embarrass themselves. Michael Scott being one of the biggest examples. They embarrass themselves by behaving ignorantly or like being tactless, lacking self-awareness. That's why we find it funny. Not because we necessarily agree with all of the things that he says or does.
This is a huge problem in modern day criticism for a lot of these types of shows, is that they mistake liking somebody saying something in a funny way on a TV show with being like an ardent supporter of whatever that comment is. There is a huge difference between actually understanding that something is funny for that reason and doing so because you agree with what they're saying. It's like the
Blazing
Boys.
Saddles paradox. Yeah.
And we're allowed to
principle.
find a character like Michael Scott still redeemable and lovable, despite the fact that he made tactless errors in the show.
It's also funny because I watch mostly old stuff, and it's very interesting to see how much more writers seem to believe that people were redeemable back in the day than they do now. Like, I watch a lot of
what else is the point? You know?
Yeah, like I watch a lot of old cop shows in which the characters can be pretty brutal and either misogynistic or racist or say things, but it's always done in the context of an episode where it's supposed to fit the theme, and it's understood that you're more than that. You're more than just what you said one time in one example. Maybe in some of those examples, it could be more egregious and you're like, okay, that's just inconsistent writing. Like, why is this character that never said anything like this suddenly talking like this when it doesn't fit? Especially when they try to get topical and they insert themes into something, and then one character just happens to have off the wall beliefs that you understand that in the real world would have presented themselves beforehand because it wasn't a script. That had
24.
In what way?
24.
I'm saying, but in what way?
Oh, in what way? The way that people have attitude, that started in 2001.
Yeah, post 9/11, just after 9/11.
Yes, and so all of a sudden there were these like horribly like bigoted anti-whatever people in this industry or this space, and it's like this would have reared its head earlier. Exactly what you like. That's the takeaway I had.
What do you mean? Like, what would have like?
This would have, if you have this attitude and you're working in this field, you would not be in this field.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my favorite.
This would have been found earlier.
There was a show that came out this year about a cop working on the border. I don't remember what it was called. I'm not sure if it was with David Arbor or somebody like that, but the trope of it is that like he works at the border and doesn't speak Spanish. Like, he's a border, he works for ICE, he works on the border, but he doesn't speak Spanish. That's not a thing in the real world. It's just these people are like, look at this great way we could make this guy look like a bumbling idiot if we wanted to. And
it's perfect for Reno 911.
But that's in the theme that it fits. There was also somebody said, I'm sorry, I don't remember who said, they said Pam and Jim would be divorced by now. Oh, Mighty Rack says that. Like,
I even saw so many opinion pieces specifically last year saying like Jim was actually a villain in the office. A lot of people believe that. He preyed upon Pam's vulnerabilities to manipulate her into an abusive, toxic relationship.
Those are the power dynamic people.
Like, have you ever existed in like a real life social situation?
Well,
like, these people seem to just crop up out of nowhere. That's why they're called NPCs.
They take a world that is mostly gray and apply black and white logic to it. That doesn't really work. Also, the funny thing about saying that they would be divorced, I still remember the outrage when X-Files' second movie, I Want to Believe, or whatever the second one was called, they like in the movie, like right at the beginning, there's a scene where basically like Mulder's like asks her if she wants to have sex, and she says, sorry, I've got a headache, basically. And like, it was such a slap in the face to a show that literally built its entire fan base on people loving the amazing chemistry between these two actors. And you're like, what in God's name, was Chris Carter thinking to bring the movie back in like 2008, or it was a little bit later than that, and make your first reintroduction to these characters where they're like sick of each other and they can't stand being around each other. It's like
subverting expectations,
dude. It's like all subverting expectations really is. It's just some dude in a writing room like, wouldn't it be cool if?
Do you guys think that Mindy Kaling is trying to hop on a bandwagon or a grift of some kind to attempt at like being anti-woke, being edgy? Because like, I saw this. I mean, here's the main counter argument. You know, two shows that are still running right now. South Park, they're known for making jokes about any and all controversial topics or people. And Always Sunny in Philadelphia, still running on, I believe it's 15th season. And their pilot episode was called The Gang Gets Racist. Clearly, they're not, it's no holds barred.
That's a perfect example.
They are not afraid to touch certain topics.
And that's a perfect example of characters you're very clearly not supposed to identify with. Like, you're supposed, like, maybe that's the problem today, right? Like, everyone's like, I need to be able to see myself in characters. Like, if you see yourself in characters from Always Sunny, you might be the problem. Like, but for these shows, it makes no sense to me because most people don't actually see themselves as like analogs to real people.
I mean, I don't know about that because like you see all of these, BuzzFeed quizzes that are like, which Office character are you? Which Parks and Rec character are you? Which Always Sunny character are you? Etc. Like people are interested in the relatability factor of these characters who do abhorrent and ignorant things because everyone makes missteps like that, and the scenes that they show, although exaggerated, do happen in real life, and it's hilarious because it takes your guard down.
I don't remember if it was Charlie Day or who it was, talked about how they basically they're grandfathered in. And I've heard that show is like super politically correct now. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
I tried to look into that because I haven't watched Always Sunny, but I mean, maybe the fan base has just evolved over time so that they don't realize that the show has changed. But one tweet said, if It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is still being made, The Office 100% could be made today. I like Mindy Kaling, but people need to relax with this attempted anti-woke BS. So they think she's just like hopping on a bandwagon to be trendy.
I don't think those people have actually looked into just how hard it would be to make most of, like they haven't watched enough old stuff with a critical lens to understand just how hard it would be to make most of the stuff. Even boring old network TV NCIS would make constant jokes about sexual harassment in the workplace. Like they'd it was a theme to for DiNozzo to like find ways to get out of the sexual harassment seminars they would do every year. Like, and he's like one of the more complex characters that really grows up on that show. That was a CBS show, an old person network show, and they made those jokes. You can't do that stuff anymore. And that's beyond the fact that you just can't do most of it, because if the thought process is already quote unquote woke when they have to do the casting process, you've already lost, because things have already started to prove that it starts so early and it's so infected through all levels of production that there's no way that stuff slips through the cracks in the writing departments anymore. I actually loved that stuff back in the day when really crazy crap would like find their way through the cracks in the writing. There's a really funny episode, speaking of that show, of like NCIS Los Angeles. It has like a radicalized leftist Berkeley professor who like quotes Chairman Mao and stuff like that. And I'm like, how did this get through legal? Like, there's no way they would have allowed this nowadays, because we all know. And his like conclusion is basically like, you can take me out of commission, but you don't know how many minds I poisoned along the way. I'm like, they're being weirdly honest right now.
We watched that episode on Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really good. Like the name of the group was like named after Mao, like Mao Zedong or something like that. It's like I was like watching. I'm like, were the writers out sick that day and they had to hire like a?
It's just
a broken writer's room is right twice a day.
Yeah. They had Joel Cernow write that one.
Yeah,
the one right wing writer.
Like, of course, people would be drawn to content that dramatizes or trivializes things that happen in office culture. That's something that is universal to all adults, right?
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm sorry, reality offends you. Like, it shocks me the type of replies that this article was getting. One person just quote tweeted it and said, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Cancel culture isn't real. Cancel culture isn't real. Cancel culture isn't real. Cancel culture isn't real." Like, they just are rocking back and forth in the corner of the insane asylum, telling themselves that, sensitivities haven't changed, but they have.
Itself is like a parody of itself.
Yeah.
It's like, also, you're doing it right now. Yeah. She didn't even do anything.
Like, you're the person running sensitivity training in the office that is like the culture we have right now. This culture that is like really a lack of culture because we're not sustaining ourselves.
Is the cancel culture in the room with you right now?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's funny, that term is becoming like conspiracy theorists. It's just like you throw it out as it just somehow like makes your argument invalid.
And
like,
by the way, if you have a problem with Balenciaga or Adidas, you're QAnon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of the weaponization of language in all examples. This is such a trivial thing, and it got people so angry because she's just pointing out a truth.
And that's funny. That was like that phrase that you just used is something that was very big for me early on. Like when I wanted to do this podcast, was like the weaponization and the changing of language.
I'm sorry. You just
yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
the emphasis you put on cast and
on this podcast.
sorry. Continue.
I'm being shamed right now.
No, I thought it was adorable.
I'm
quite
sorry.
frankly.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm calling quits. I quit.
No
more
finish what you
sincerity
were gonna
from
say.
Brett.
Finish
When
what you
I
were gonna
agreed
say.
to do this podcast,
This podcast.
I'm just saying that the effort by society, Hollywood, and to change the culture around language in general is very, very bad because it makes it harder. It obfuscates our discussions with everyone. It's why I talk a lot about, normies don't know this stuff is going on, and it doesn't matter even if they did, because even if they did know what was going on, everyone's language and lexicon would be so different based on what you define something as. Like you're not ever arguing about the same thing anyway. Talk about literally ask someone about the definition of racism and go to 5 different people. You'll get 5 different definitions now. Whether they believe anti-racism is a thing, is it just racism? Is it anti-racism? If you can't settle on one solid definition for anything, nothing gets fixed, and that's the point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Remember when there was a you might not, but like 6-7 years ago now, when Jordan Peterson got in all that trouble for using the term social enforcement, when this is exactly like what the principle he was talking about is what the people demonizing him are doing.
We're going to socially enforce that you can't talk about social enforcement.
Right, exactly. Yeah. They're like, oh, that's literally, they're like, that idea is literally like a fascist way to live. And it's like, but that's what you do. That's that's how you live. That's why we have these terms. That's why like it's the same thing. It's like, we're going to mock like you said, the flyover people for their religious beliefs, and not realize that everybody that is demonizing it has their own religious beliefs. And that's what this is. That person screaming something over and over is literally like, Hail Mary. Like I have to absolve myself from even reading this. Like
I think that's just petulant, childish behavior. But also, did you see the thing? There was like a clip, I don't know how old it was, of Jordan Peterson this week. He goes, do you know why I hold my, how I got rid of all of the people who protest at my events? I hold my talks at 8 a.m.
Because I want to know how I got these.
Because they don't want to, because nobody will he's like, nobody who hates the amazing super Nazi wants to come and protest at 8 a.m. That's freaking genius.
Right.
So, but it's weird because shows like this, like, you can say that they won't get made, but that doesn't make it bad. Like, I don't like it when you go like, that's still a problem too, is the attempt to go back and apply today's modern lens with stuff that's 40, 50, 60 years old, or the Office, which is 10 years old. 15 years old.
It has not been that long.
No.
And it's funny because Mindy Kaling is only pointing this out on complete accident. We know that she is part of the problem when it comes to the sensitivities of our culture changing, as she is the face of the new like gay non-white redefinition of Velma from Scooby-Doo. Like, she is all for and in this camp of being obsessed with identity and telling the audience that certain entertainment is not for them. She is like one of the faces of that.
It's not for
she's almost made a name off of that. So she's only pointing this out because it's completely accidental.
Yeah. So, all right. Also, guys, I do want to point one thing out before we go, is that HBO Max and Discovery, with their merge, they're changing their name. So it says...
just Max?
Yeah, basically they're just going to call it
that.
Max. I don't know how I feel about that. We'll have to see. So that's
dumb decision.
So yeah, that's. I'm very interested to see what it goes, because I actually like HBO Max as a streaming service. It's just it's gonna happen. So all right, Wesley, thank you very much, my friend. Do we have some super chats?
No.
Oh, all right, Wesley. Let everyone know they can find you, or actually let them know what's going on with the vlog.
Let them know where they can't find you. Also.
Yeah. You can't find me on Truth Social. No. So the vlog we're working on some Christmas stuff. I know it's been a while since we put out the Coronemic episode, but we had some things happen here recently that took all my time.
Very busy.
Yes, with a certain guest. It's a lot of time, but no, we've got special plans with special guests. Look forward to that. There will be a Christmas party episode as well, so you'll have 2 Christmas specials. So if you like the behind the scenes stuff, you'll be happy. If you don't, sorry. If you like the scripted stuff, you'll also be happy, and if you don't, sorry. But to everybody out there is watching and commenting, I appreciate it very much. We're trying very hard. This is a hard thing to produce. And we're working on it. Everything you don't like about it, we're working on it. You're right.
All right, man. Thank you. Mary, where can they find you?
Well, thank you for watching this podcast.
Thank you for that. I'm never going to live that down, guys.
On Popular Culture Crisis, you can find pictures of me on Instagram at Mary Archived. You can also read my inane thoughts on Twitter at Mary Archived. I'm on Parler if you care. That's Mary Archived too. Yep, that's just about it.
All right. I didn't know you were on Parler.
I am, barely.
All right, guys. If you could, please like the video, like the episode, like all the videos that we release every single day. Subscribe to the channel. Leave comments on the videos. It really does help us in the algorithm. Thank you very much. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at Brett Dasovic for the show, Monday through Friday. We got one more. Go for it, Mary.
Overdressed said, I love Cast Castle. I'm looking forward to every episode.
That is much
you made Wesley's day.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Much appreciated.
All right, guys. So I almost said 8 p.m. again. I almost said 8 p.m.
We do not go live at 8 p.m. We go live at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time.
8 a.m. to avoid the protesters.
Yeah, we are here. 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. Yes, we don't want the protesters here. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you'd like to listen rather than watch. We are also on social media. We're on Twitter at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then, guys.
Bye, Roger.
Bye.